It's now time for a devotional thought. This morning, it will be brought to us by Faith for Today.
In May of 2001, Eric Weihenmayer accomplished something that only about 150 people per year do, reaching the top of Mount Everest. The thing that made Eric's achievement unusual is that he's the first blind person to succeed in scaling the tallest mountain in the world. Eric was born with a disease called retinoschisis, and by the time he was 13, he was completely blind. Rather than focus on what he could not do, he made the choice to focus on what he could do and went much further than almost anyone expected. John chapter 9 tells us how another blind man made a life-changing choice when he had an encounter with God. It reads like this. As Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus. "But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told him, "wash in the pool of Siloam." This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. Now the Bible says that as Jesus walked along, he saw a man who was born blind, and his disciples, who were hungry for information, asked, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Whenever we have adversity in our lives, we have a tendency in our own human reasonings to always want to understand why this happened. Who do I blame for this? I'm like this because my parents are like this. I'm like this because I didn't have parents. I'm like this because I'm short. I'm like this because I'm tall. I'm like this because my father dropped me on my head. I'm like this because my mom ate corn dogs when she was pregnant. You can always look for some reason to explain the setbacks of life. Jesus blows all of this out of the water and says, neither this man nor his parents sinned. In other words, he did nothing to bring this on himself. I really want that to sink in, because somebody hearing this today is blaming themselves for something that you have no responsibility for. And God says it was nothing that you did that brought this on you. This just happened. It's nothing that your parents did that caused this to happen. Things happen. Bad things happen to good people. So rather than spending all your energy trying to figure out who do we blame for this condition, we got to be preparing ourselves because God is about to pass your way. Look at this. Jesus said, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. This is a profound statement. Jesus is suggesting here that the works of God are displayed through the adversities of men. In other words, if you didn't go through anything that was adverse, God would not have had a way to show how strong he is in your life. Are you following me? When you want to see the works of God made manifest, look for somebody who is in the most deplorable situation, because God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. When we are at our worst, God is at his best. And just because you are in a crisis mode right now does not mean that you are going to spend your entire life in it. Some of you feel like you're sitting by the side of the road of life and everyone is passing you by and traveling on to greater things, but you're stuck right there where you are because you're in the dark. You're blind to the opportunities that just might be right there in front of you. But there's something down deep in your spirit that's telling you that everything is about to change. Interestingly enough, when Jesus gets ready to heal this man, his methods are somewhat unorthodox. Jesus has a whole menu of things that he can use. He can speak the word and say, "I command you to see." But he didn't do that. He could have laid his hands on him and said, "I command your eyes to open up." But he didn't do that either. When he got ready to heal this man, he spat on the ground and made mud out of the spit. Now, the man can't see him, but imagine with me, if you can, you're blind. You're now in the presence of this healer that you've heard everybody talking about. He's called you out of the crowd. You've moved toward him in the dark. He's getting ready to heal you, you think, and then you hear him spit on the ground. Isn't it funny how God's method of bringing you out of the darkness is not the method that you would have chosen? I've seen God bring me out of a lot of things, but he didn't always use the person I wanted him to use and the way I wanted him to use. And he didn't bring me out as comfortable and as classy and as sensational as I would have liked for him to bring me out. He brought this man out with spit mud. Which brings me to a big question. How bad do we want out of our circumstances? You see, there are people who want changes in their life as long as it costs them nothing. People want to get a degree, but don't want to study. People want to have money, but don't want to work. You've probably met a number of people who want things but are unwilling to go through what it takes to get it. When we finally come to a point of desperation, tired of being blind, walking in the dark, living in the dark, eating in the dark, and now there's a chance for our deliverance. I know what your response is. Lord, I don't care. Please put the mud right here. Incidentally, when you're trying to open somebody's eyes, generally you don't make it worse. Putting mud in my eyes is not a normal prescription that you would think would help me to see, is it? Isn't it funny how when you are closest to seeing the works of God, that things seem to get worse? Is there anyone listening to me today who understands how things get worse before they get better? Now, I wish I had time to do this justice. The Bible said that Jesus made mud and put it in the man's eyes and told him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. Here is probably the most relevant part of the story for most of us. Jesus sent this man somewhere else to complete his miracle. Jesus could have completed the process right there. But just like for us today, Jesus asked this man to make a decision to walk quite a distance in the dark, to walk through the crowds who stared at the mud on his face, to walk past those who laughed at him, beyond those who felt confused by what they could see on his face. But Jesus told him to go on a journey, and he asks us to do the same, because he knows that we are only one decision away from our best life, a decision to stop playing the blame game, and a decision to walk from our darkness into his light.